Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, the Lover, also known as the Power to Blues, back for you with another video. And it has been a hot minute since I sat down to record. It's sort of busy with college work and playing other stuff at the moment, so do excuse that, but I hope I can get back into a more regular flow of, the usual once this week goes to pass. But we have Maze of the Master reveals for the Odion stuff, which was something I was kind of excited for. Usually not like a big, bad DM nostalgia kind of guy. But I do think Odion is pretty cool, and the artwork on these cards did look very neat. I've read these already. I do know these are somewhat playable, which is what I think makes this very exciting. So I did want to, just run these down with you guys, maybe talk a bit about it, and get your guys' thoughts on. That's always a cool thing about these videos. Just getting to talk with the people that are maybe as excited about these as I am. We at the top have the, as with all, DM character decks that get turned into an archetype, we have the starter that is based on the DM character. Similar to Fighting Flame Swordsman for that deck, we have the Man with the Mark, a level 4 Earth spellcaster effect monster with 1000 attack and 1000 defense. And if he's normal or special, you can take a Temple of the Kings or a spell trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. That latter part is, funnily enough, very important. But yeah, it's a on-summon search a card guy. This is about as, like, it's good you can get. But that's kind of the underlying theme of these cards, if we're going to go through these a bit further. Yeah, once per turn, and while you control the Temple of the Kings, this and Apophis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and Temple of the Kings you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Need protection. Yeah, not a whole lot else to add. It's a searcher with an upside. You take these. Then we have Merciless Scorpion of Circuit, a 6 Earth Fairy effect with 25 attack and 2000 defense. Can't be normal summoned or set, which funny bit of flavor since this is the Circuit retrain. Has the first be special from hand by banishing a level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck while you control the Temple of the Kings. From the deck part is sort of neat. There's a couple high-level monsters that are like incidentally either playable in this or just good staples. I'm thinking something that I, funnily enough, needed Peeps Yu-Gi-Oh! On Twitter to think of that. Lord of the Heavenly Prison, looking like a very good card for this. But also something like Nibiru the Primal Being does look fairly tempting if you're looking to build this deck. Since that's not only a good card at the moment, but also just something that does fulfill the cost for this, which is kind of cool. Yeah, can special summon this once per turn in the main, add a Temple of the Kings or a spell that mentions it from deck to hand. Yeah, this is once again, it's a free guy essentially that searches another guy, which is pretty good. Temple of the Kings is, that old continuous spell that makes you able to activate a trap from the turn that is set. I think that's maybe a one-off. I think a two-off if you're being very generous in this. It's probably something you just want for like your first turn setup to really get off the ground. Be it turn 1, turn 2, to have options to immediately start firing trap cards. But post that, I think the utility of Temple of the Kings does very roughly diminish, and this deck is very capable of, reestablishing value and keeping up in a grind game. Spell that mentions it can be sort of cute. I think the fusion spell's like okay. We're going to talk about that when we get to it. Spoiler alert, there's a fusion. At the start of the damage step, if this guy battles, destroy that opponent's monster, and if you do this, gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. Cute effect. Once again, searcher with an upside. I think there's few negative things to be said about this. There's like an okay restriction for the fact that it is able to summon itself from the hand by banishing a guy from the deck. Yeah, let's move on to the big Anubis man that has a lot of promotional art with him on it. Can't be normal or set. Must first be special from hand or grave while you have 3 or more cards in your graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings and or traps by placing 2 of them on the bottom of the deck in any order. Very cute bit of recursion on a very chunky bungus, which is kind of cool. And then you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to add a man with a mark from deck to hand. And if a spell traps you control trap up card effects, you can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. Only use that. You only use each effect of Anubis, the Last Judge, once per turn. More copies of, you know, your archetypal Stratos is always nice, especially if they are in the form of something that does help you in a grind game by putting back resources you might want back in the deck. Technically also something that I think kind of cements Temple of the Kings as like a one-off. Since you can recur it if it does get outed. But yeah, also just good card. Does have the stack on like a turn 2, turn 3, maybe close out a game. This being a 10 is sort of nice. If you're playing Lord of the Heavenly Prison, you have the rank 10 trains as these options. So that's something cute to keep in mind. The removal effect on field's okay, you know. Maybe it comes up, maybe it doesn't. You'll see. But the consistency part and this being, you know, something that helps grind out games and maybe close out games. It is a fairly chunky guy. You can just pop out of the graveyard on like a follow-up turn, which is very handy for this deck or for something in this, like, you know, range of decks. Then we have Divine Serpent Apophis, a level 6 Earth Reptile Fusion, 28 attack, 26 defense. Takes 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings and has to either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing 2 Apophis monsters. Once per turn, you can target up to 3 Apophis traps with different names in your graveyard, set them, and once per turn, if a trap is activated, target a card your opponent controls, destroy it. Once again, it is just good. This just works, yeah. Tributing 2 Apophis monsters is like maybe a bit hard on like a turn 1. If you're not, you know, necessarily in the know on what's up to what's coming up, but I think you can definitely set that up turn 1 and then get, like, you know, those Apophis trap backs, Apophis traps back for the value, and also because of the retrain that is, I believe, a Omni or Monster Negate. I will correct myself in post. I think it's like Apophis, the Swamp Deity. That's the one I'm talking about. Which is another great piece of cardboard for this deck. But yeah, it's just a good card. Then we have Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit. This is a 6 Earth Fairy Fusion, 3k attack, 2k defense. Takes a Circuit monster and a monster with 2500 or less attack. That second part is important, keep that in mind. And if this is special or at the start of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, target a face a monster opponent controls or in the graveyard, banish it. If you do, this card gains attack equal to half that banished monster's original attack. Only use that effect once per turn, and this can make a second attack during each battle phase while a 10 or higher monster is banished. So the main deck one already does set this up very nicely. This is technically also something you would set up with the own effect of this guy. If you do remove a high level monster from your opponent's like graveyard or field, which is sort of cute. And it's, you know, another big hit hard guy. Similar to, you know, the Anubis the Last Judge is just a very good tool to play into boards, close out games, potentially clear up game states. Very solid card, yeah. It's not like crazy, but it's good, you know. Treasures of the Kings, a field spell. When this is activated, set an Apophis trap from the deck. Very important one coming up. I might talk about that next, because the next 2 cards are a bit underwhelming. This card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while in the field zone. Very important line of text for most of your names. And once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on the field or a trap in your graveyard, you can add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand. Another very good piece of recursion. Keeping this deck in the grind game. Very important for like a control strategy like this. Yeah, it is once again just good. It is very simple, it's very to the point card design. But it keeps a lot of the flavor that, you know, the original Odion stuff had. And does something good with it, you know. That's a rare thing from Nostalgia Support. I'm pulling the Apophis one like up front here. Apophis the Serpent. This is a Cont Trap special. This is a normal monster, Reptile, Earth, level 4, 16, and 18. This card's also still a trap, and then you can set an Apophis trap from your deck, except Apophis the Serpent, and it can't be activated this turn. If this card is sent to grave, you can add 1 embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand. Considering that Treasures of the Kings does casually place this if you have a way to, you know, the original Temple of the Kings, you can just, yeah, get to that. The nice part is, if you have like another cards to set that turn from your hand, be it a spell, a trap, immediately set that. Use the second Treasures of the Kings effect to get to original Temple of the Kings via your Man with the Mark, which is sort of cute. And then you can immediately, you know, go for Serpent. Serpent grabs Swamp Deity. You tribute Serpent and Swamp Deity for the Apophis fusion. Grab immediately another vanilla embodiment of Apophis if that's sort of cute. I think I could see that being like a one-off just because it's a free guy you can grab and potentially more negation off of a Swamp Deity, or just something that helps trigger Divine Serpent Apophis without like a lot of commitment from you. You don't need to flip like one of your other guys for this, which is kind of cute. And then some of like the fine cards, but like not really crazy stuff. Defense of the Temple is a normal spell card. This fusions an Earth Fusion from the extra. Using monsters from your hand or field, and if you use a monster you control that mentions Temple of the Kings, you can also use a face-up monster your opponent controls as material. And if you control Temple of the Kings, you can banish this card from the grave to add a Dangers from the Divine, which is the next card. Only use each effect once per turn. This is, I feel like, one of the more underwhelming pieces of this. But after like 8 bangers, you can only, you know, do so much. It's like a solid fusion spell. I could see this being like a one-off to potentially search if you're going second. Maybe if you're playing this in like a dedicated strategy, you could think about siding more of these. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're summoning the Divine Serpent Apophis off of the alternative method more often than not. It's cute for Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit, which is why I would say play like at least one. Or like I'm currently thinking playing at least one, or like one at most, because like otherwise this doesn't do like a whole lot, and it is fairly searchable. And then we have Dangers of the Divine, a quick play spell card that allows you to pay half your life points, tribute a monster special, a Winged Dragon of Ra from your hand or banishment, ignoring the summoning condition, making its attack and defense 4000. It can't attack, and during the end phase of this turn, end phase of the next turn, it returns to the hand. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, choose a Winged Dragon of Ra in your monster zone and send all other monsters on the field to the graveyard. Sort of cute. I don't think you're playing Ra specifically for this, but I could see this being like a sort of cute tech and like dedicated Ra decks. And capping off this whole bunch of nonsense is Verdict of Anubis. An absolutely ridiculous counter trap. When your opponent activates a spell trap while you control 3 or more other spell traps, you negate the activation if you do destroy that card, and then if you control Temple of the Kings, it gets better. You can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the total attack of all those destroyed monsters. Yeah. It's a spell trap negate that's also a board wipe. Does take inspiration from Judgment of Anubis. I think it's that old trap card that negates like the effect of a monster with 0 defense, I want to say. It had like some very specific condition, and then it also had like a board wipe attached to it. But yeah, overall, I'm really excited for these. I think these are very, very good cards, or like just good cards. You know, it seems like a very cool control strategy, which huge fan of those. That does, you know, keep the whole like trap monster flair that Odion had, makes use of a lot of the older cards. Temple of the King, something very interesting to incorporate into a trap monster strategy, or like a trap strategy in general, because similar to like a Labyrinth Coup Clock, it kind of skips, you know, that turn that usually holds trap cards back from being like entirely playable. Seems consistent, seems very capable in a grind game, and does have very interesting pieces of interaction, like, you know, pops in, you know, targeted negation off of like the Swamp Deity Apophis, and isn't like, you know, Floodgate Turbo, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I do quite like these cards a lot, but as mentioned at the start, what are your thoughts? Are you maybe just like me, excited and bad chesting at, you know, the thought of normal summoning Odion? Or are you like, this is cute, but moving on with your life and pulling for that 7th Tachyon? Let me know that in the comments down below. Very excited to hear your guys' thoughts on like maybe a couple interactions that I've missed, even if I did point out like a couple very basic ones in the video. So yeah, I'd be happy to hear guys' input on these. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope to see you guys soon enough once work stops sucking. And yeah, with all that being said, I'll be seeing you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.